Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. This is Let's Talk Pastor. I'm your host, Elisha Cho, and I'm so pleased to be with you today. I have a very special guest, dear friend, confidant, collaborator in the faith with me. Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you for having me on here again, Elisha. I appreciate you. My name's Kurt Gerald. I am a pastor down at North Street Nazarene Church of the Nazarene, associate pastor down there, and I help run the Anchor of Hull, which is kind of like a community center slash recovery center for the community of Hull.
That's great. That's great. Well, Pastor Kurt has been on this podcast before, and a couple of weeks ago he came out to visit us in Danvers, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He led sharing a passionate message, and I'll try to leave the link down below for you later. And it was a wonderful time. And today we just want to dream with you, envision with you what God has laid on our hearts in terms of a specific kind of ministry or an outlet. And that's where we want to go. And if you want to chime in, please feel free to leave a chat and we'll try to interact with you as well. But nonetheless, Kurt, you want to kind of share with us what's been going on? Share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had this kind of pulling, and it happened during during COVID, during when COVID was happening, to kind of reach people in a different way, I think a lot of people did, right? They saw how powerful social media, how powerful the internet can really be in terms of reaching people, in terms of getting a message out, those type of things. And I really had this calling, but it wasn't a strictly. And I will say that I do think it is a Christian idea, although it is not specifically Christian. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me see if I can help it make sense. So there was this idea I had, and I saw it greatly. I saw a divide, and a lot of. I mean, I wasn't anything special in seeing that. I think all of us saw it. This major divide that was happening in our country, and it was happening in my backyard as well. Friends, families, just being separated. I don't want to get political here. I won't get political, but that was one of the igniting points as well.
Yep.
Was what was happening in our political scene. And that was really disturbing to me, to see this divide happening between people who said that they loved each other, who cared for each other. And it just messed with me. And I was like, what can I do? I'm like, I'm not nothing special. I'm nobody. What can I do to correct this, or to help be a part of the solution rather than the problem? Because I'll be honest, I was part of the problem. Definitely, absolutely part of the problem. I was very opinionated, still am, but I'm learning how to discuss things in a more open way.
There you go.
Be more open and understanding of people. So one way that I thought that we could do this, and I started practicing this, actually, I should say this, the reason that the podcast idea came out of what I was practicing in my own life and what had actually happened in my own life. I'll actually tell a little, can I tell a quick story? Just a little story about what had happened. So I was in my office one night, probably around 6, 7 p.m. after a day full of meetings and running around and tired. Probably wasn't doing my self-care at the best at this time either.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was this gentleman came into my office and started to and he was a very opinionated person, much like myself. And especially at that time, I was very boisterous, very loud with my opinion. And he came into my office and started to talk to me and bringing up politics. This was probably around when President Trump was running for president. Again, I don't want to get political here. How do I do this without getting political? All right, let's
Just
just.
say it as it is. Say
I'll
it as
say it
you
as it is.
experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
totally fine. Yeah, say it as it is.
So, all right, this is how I'll do it. I won't say whose side I was rooting for. That's what I'll do.
The mystery. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. Let's do that.
So there was a gentleman running for office, and actually, I don't know, because the other gentleman was in office already or running for office as well. So I don't know how, I'm not great with this. Anyway, so this kid was in stance of a gentleman of one of the candidates, and I was decidedly against this person. But if I'm just being honest, I'm really against politics altogether. I had this. I have this, and I need to correct this also because not all politicians are bad, right? I had this feeling of like I just don't like politicians. If you've gotten that far in the game, you have bodies in your closet, right? That's just how I felt. And so I really wasn't in stance for one or the other. I just didn't like one of them. And so this gentleman was for this individual. And so I was just asking him questions. I was tired. And I was like, I asked him a question. I was like, how can you, as a person who claims to be of love, support somebody who stands on X, Y, and Z? And again, like this could be said about both candidates. So
Oh,
I
sure,
know you're
sure.
probably thinking it's one, but it could be said about both or
Sure,
all.
sure, sure.
Um, so, and that's what I said to them. And their response back to me was, well, this candidate does, and their people does X, Y, and Z. And then I came back with another question like, no, 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 but could you answer this question? And he kept deflecting to and not answering my specific question and deflecting to what the other party was doing.
Right, right.
And I I don't know if I should say that. Well, I chased them out of my office.
Okay, okay.
Literally, into his car.
Disagreements happen.
Yes,
Disagreements happen.
disagreements happen, and I'm
Yep.
not that
Okay.
far removed from the street. So, I chased him out of my office,
Okay.
literally. And as soon as I did it, I was like, "How are you any better, Kurt? How are you
Mm.
any better? You're claiming to be of love, yet you just chase somebody out of your office."
Mm.
And so I called them back right away, apologized, said, "Could you come back? I'd like to apologize to you. I'm not going to touch you. I just want to apologize. Um, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
If you're a Christian brother, if you're a brother if you're a person who's claiming to be of love, and I am too, and we got the same love that we're chasing, that is not what love looks like, right?"
Mm.
And then other things I started to see was people very close to me
Mm-hmm.
who I would see getting into the trenches, serving, loving, caring
Yep.
for others on their own time, not getting paid a dime,
Yep.
right? Showing and expressing true love.
Mm-hmm.
Yet on this political side, there was, there were some people on this side, there's some, and I was like, wow, how, so I started to wonder, well, why does a person follow this or believe in this or have this
Yep.
viewpoint? And I realized, like, I had these strong viewpoints as well, and I had been shaped by my upbringing, by my life experiences, by everything that I'd experienced up until whatever point, right? This
Mm.
point right here, up until this point right now, I've been shaped by my past.
Mm-hmm.
And that shouldn't take away from the love that I
Yeah.
show another person. I should be able to worship in the same sanctuary
Yeah.
as a person who, let's say, believes in capital punishment, or who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't believe in capital punishment, or who believes in abortion or not abortion, or
Mm-hmm.
because there is some reason that that individual believes that, some life
Exactly.
experience that has shaped that.
Yep.
So I had to do a lot of soul searching and realizing I have to change the way that I speak to people. I have to change the way I interact with people. I have to watch my tongue. If I truly want to live a life of love, and I truly believe that Jesus came to bring us all together, not divide us.
Mm-hmm.
If I truly believe that, then I have to listen to what shaped that other person. And
Yeah.
when I realized this too was, I just get mad at that person instantaneously
Mm-hmm.
for who they are, for what they believe, or what they're professing, or what is their profession, or
Right.
all this stuff. And I realized, so the answer is I have to listen to their story. I have to listen to what shaped them. And when I did that, all of a sudden I saw a fuller picture of this
Mm.
person. And when I say, like, true, like the animosity, anger, there was nothing there anymore. Like, I could have a
Nice.
true relationship with this person. So I realized something was like, so what's the opposite of love? I mean, I think, right, it's everyone says one thing, they say hate, right? But I want to claim that it's fear. I think
Mm.
the opposite of love is fear. I think that hate, if you think of any hateful thing, it usually derives or is birthed from fear.
Mm.
And when I get to, and the most common fear is fear of the unknown. So when something
Right.
comes known, that fear dissipates and that hate vanishes. That's just something I noticed happening in
Mm-hmm.
my own life. Um, because again, I truly believe that Jesus came for us all, and loves
Right.
us all. Not who say I support this and not this, and not the people who support this and not this. I think he came for us all, died for
Yeah.
us all. And
Yeah.
so if I really wanted connection, I was even going to have to stop. And this is going to might ruffle some feathers actually.
Mm.
Um, a lot of my this I don't know a better word. Let me think of a better word, because Christian Christian slang, Christian. I was gonna say, Christianese. Is that derogatory in any way? Christianese, like the language of Christianity. Um,
Sure.
it can be very inflaming, enraging to people.
It can be triggering sometimes for
Triggering. That's
people with
the word.
trauma. Yeah.
Triggering. Yes, from past traumas, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so, if I truly want to enter into a loving relationship with this person, I may have to hold some of my beliefs, not, or rephrase the way I said things. So I used to be like, this is the way. Jesus is the only way. You say anything else, I don't want to hear it. You're wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Like that type of very, like, dead sense. And do I still believe that Jesus is the way? Yeah, I do. Um, but and this also stems, wow, now actually thinking about it, it stems from experience in two very different churches where I was in a very conservative church. Again, nothing against the conservative church. I think there's so much to be learned. Um, and then going to an extremely probably liberal church. The way things were done, um, I saw where at my first church, I was just trying to get people to say the name Jesus. And do I want people to enter into a relationship with Christ? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But the way I went about it was a little differently up here, where I just loved people and said, for me, I would use things like, for me, this is what happens. Like, for me, Christ, believing in Christ helped me, da 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 da. For me, this scripture means. Now, don't take this. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, for me, this is what this scripture did for me and transformed my heart in a certain way. And so I just had to change the way I spoke, the way I interact with people, especially in our current context, right? And I was just knowing my context also in New England, in a, a highly an area that the church has done some damage, if I'm just being honest. And so there's a lot of church trauma up here, I noticed. And maybe I'm going about it a roundabout way, but there was a quote that is often attributed to I believe it's Saint Francis Assisi. Is it Assisi? Saint
Of
Francis
Assisi.
of Assisi. Um, preach the gospel always and use words when necessary.
Right.
I think that's the quote.
Yep.
And man, does that ring true, especially in our current context. Now, I think if maybe we were, let's just say, down south, maybe I could do things a little differently. But I'm aware of my current context.
Yeah.
And if I truly want to enter into a loving relationship with somebody, and I truly do want them to experience the love of Christ,
Yeah.
I believe that I've found a certain way to do it. And I'm not trying to be like sneaky or underhanded or like, oops, gotcha. Because everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows I believe in Jesus. Everybody knows this. So actually, I kind of use that. I get to use that. I get to go like, yeah, no, just in my instance, this is how it works for me in my relationship. But I build relationships first.
It's good.
Earn the right to speak this truth in somebody's life. So all that is a roundabout way of saying that this podcast idea, where it might not be strictly me talking about the gospel and Jesus and doing hermeneutics and breaking down and doing all this stuff, I'm still trying to accomplish lessening the divide, and I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm a Christian and that this is what I believe.
It's good. It's good.
So I don't know.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a couple of things that I want to contribute to, and I'm hearing your experience of the divide, especially in the past couple of years, and especially when politics comes into the picture or any religion comes into the picture. There's always going to be people with opinions, and it's like two different worldviews collide, and there's going to be friction. There's going to be agreement. There's going to be disagreement. And what I'm gleaning from what you're saying is you're an observer of culture and of context. You're trying to learn the language of the people who are speaking to you
Mm.
in a way they might have a totally different worldview.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, love and the opposite of fear, yeah, I can see that. I can see that the fear of the unknown, it's
Mm.
like it makes you uncomfortable.
Mm.
Because my grandparents like the color red, so my dad liked the color red, so I like the color red.
Yeah.
So it's always got to be that way. That's
Mhm.
the only color I've known.
Mhm.
But somebody says, well, how about blue? And people are like, what blue? It's just red's the only
Is
color
the
for me.
Yeah.
And that's like almost like a religious thing.
Yeah.
You believe it religiously.
Yeah.
And when people are so gung ho about a certain agenda, it
Yeah.
can get very dangerous. It can get very
Yes.
dangerous. Now, all that to say,
Mhm.
for me, my version of the opposite of love is
Mm.
obviously not hate. The opposite that I always say to the people around me is it is indifference. And the
Ooh,
reason why I say indifference is
okay.
if somebody hates you,
Mhm.
that means at least they're talking to you, they're thinking about you, they're upset at you, they're angry at you, they at least have some kind of attention towards you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So that's not the opposite of love. If they completely cut you off and they
Mm.
are indifferent, they just don't, that person who was kicked out of your office, they
Mm.
never come back, they don't respond to your call or text, that can be difficult.
Yeah.
But if they choose to return and have more conversations, then there's hope.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
fear plays into indifference too,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
you're like, if I
absolutely.
continue to talk to Kurt, I think I'm going to get converted
Yes.
to either the red side or the blue side, whatever,
Yep.
white side or the black side.
Yep.
And so I just don't want to, and indifference can really separate relationships. But if
Yes.
somebody is upset at you, and I'm talking to all the husbands out there, if somebody is upset at you, that means there's still hope for love because at least they're talking to you,
Yep.
right?
That's true.
And for me, what I'm learning and growing from is I'm trying to learn the culture as well. I'm an observer of culture. I'm listening. I'm learning. I'm gleaning. I'm trying to learn the language of New England. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not from New England. I'm not from New England, and we're trying to learn in different context.
Yeah.
And it's important to listen in and to ask good questions. Help me understand what you mean by X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Yes.
And I become a learner, and
Mm.
I'm just being a student. A student should ask good questions. So
Yes.
I'm trying to learn. Please help me understand, and that's many a times that's helped me to build relationships. And I think your vision for the podcasting is to build bridges. You wanted to lessen the gap
Yeah.
between group X and group Y,
Yes.
group A and group B. How can we talk? How can we try to learn from one another? And even if by the end of the dialogue we choose to agree to disagree, that's okay.
Yeah.
At least we've had a dialogue.
Yeah.
And that's what I was, really intrigued by when I heard your vision.
Mm.
And I know we keep on talking about envisioning, brainstorming, what's the God dreams. But I think these conversations
Mm.
are valuable,
Yeah.
are needed in this culture because of the great divide.
Yeah.
But who is the best at bridging the gap, bridging the great chasm, right? And so when you talk about for me, this is what happened for me.
Mm.
I always think about that is giving your testimony.
Yeah. Yeah. Using what God has
But
done.
you're not exactly, but you're not saying this is my I'm witnessing to you.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
actually just saying for me
Mhm.
this scripture, this verse,
Yeah.
these words from Jesus has helped me to overcome. That's for me,
Yes.
right? And that's just share. That's being a witness,
Mhm.
being a witness to what God has done in your life. And you're not shoving, the message down their throats.
Yeah.
You're just saying, this is what, and I feel free. I'm enjoying the peace and the
Mm.
joy. And so I love the way that you're approaching this. I really like it. I like the way that you're thinking, and for us to try to bridge that gap, I think that's a really in our language, which you may call Christianese, it is the ministry of reconciliation,
Mm, yes.
right? The ministry of building bridges
Yeah.
because we're apart. So how can I help you bridge the gap, and maybe you can help me
Yeah.
bridge my
Yeah.
gap
Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
I have my own biases. I
Yes.
have my own stuff that I'm going through. So help me
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. That so check this out. So the first one, and this is gonna actually probably let people in on which side, but again, I'm not on I just wanna make it clear I'm not on any side. I actually am somewhere in the middle. So the first person that I wanted to try this with was this kid. So I was at a certain rally, just in standing in solidarity. That's all I was doing. I was not who this rally was meant for. I was asked to come, and so I was just standing in solidarity. And then somebody walked. You could see them coming up the street, who was clearly on the opposite side, was
Mm-hmm.
wearing the other jerseys, let's say, was
Okay.
wearing the other jersey. But I could see something, if I'm just being honest, there was something off about him in terms of like, off, that is not the right term. I could tell that maybe he was uh, on, I don't know if this is politically correct. He is on the spectrum. That's what it was,
Okay.
right? And people started attacking him, and he's
Oh.
standing firm, and just it seemed like he was wanting to have a dialogue. And I actually started to feel some like sympathy for him. And then when I started asking people in the town about who this person was, and they were saying, "Oh, this kid is the most loving kid. He's such a nice kid. He's just a nice person, and he does care about people, and he is on the spectrum and certain other things." And when I realized that about him, so actually
Mm-hmm.
when I first initially saw him walking up, I was like, this dude is stupid. Like, why would you do that? But
Mm-hmm.
then when I noticed that about him, I see what happened was I realized part of his humanhood. I realized something else besides his jersey. I realized
Mm-hmm.
something about him as a human being,
Mm-hmm.
and that dissipated that like vulgarness that I was feeling towards him. This
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I want to know more about him. And then
Mm.
some time went on, and this podcast idea was forming, and I was like, that's the perfect person to do this with, so that I can
Mm.
hear. And so how we would kind of this is just an idea, would be all I want to hear for the first 15-20 minutes. I want to hear your story. I want to hear what shaped you. I want
Yeah.
to hear about your childhood. I want to hear about your
Sure.
upbringing. I want to hear about your struggles, your all this stuff before we even get into what might be confrontational, um, the
Controversial.
controversial. That's the word. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, controversial. So, like, not letting the audience in on the controversial aspect of the individual, just letting them see this individual, who they are, what has
Right.
shaped them, and let them see them as a human,
Yeah.
and then jump into the controversial part. Because most likely, what you're going to see is, oh, this individual had this experience or that experience, or like I'll be like, how how do you have those beliefs? Let's just even say about race, right?
Yeah.
There is this person who I dearly love, and some of their jokes would be race driven and stuff like that. And behind every joke, there's some their reason they're saying it. This is at least what I believe, that there's always a partial truth for that person in that joke. They're saying it for a reason.
Yep.
So, and I would be like, why does he
Well,
believe?
this is the pastor in me, right? Whatever's in your heart is gonna come out
Yes,
of your mouth,
yes,
even
yes,
through jokes, right?
yep,
Even through just passing
absolutely,
comments, it's what's in
absolutely,
your heart that's coming out. Yeah.
yeah. And so I really was interested, and this is when I was in the midst of this like podcast thinking about bridging the divide, and I was like, why does he believe that? But does he truly believe that? Because I see him interacting and loving
Mm.
on the opposite race, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So then getting to talk to this individual there, he grew up in a certain neighborhood,
Oh.
and he was, let's just say, chased by a certain, he was beat up by a
Oh.
certain race,
I see.
and probably during it was busing in the 70s, 80s, 70s, around there, and I don't really remember. Maybe there were certain things that were happening that shaped him in a certain way,
Right.
and so I was like, "Oh, that's why." So it enabled me to see, and this is where I'll use some Christianese, where I was able to see them through the lens of God,
Yeah.
through the grace that God pours out on me daily,
Yes.
daily, because there's like it's easy for me to point the finger, but I know for a fact there are a million things each day that God
Mm.
goes like this, or whatever, maybe not, but you know what I mean, like, but he still pours out his
Yeah.
grace on me.
Mm.
So if I'm claiming to be a Christian, to follow a God who pours out this undeserving grace upon me, then I must learn how to do the same.
Yeah.
And just a way for me to do that has been, first, I pray. I say, God, please. I always be like, God, please help me to see this person through your eyes. That
Mm.
usually happens in my resentment prayers. I'm like, God, remove this resentment from this person. Help me to see them through your eyes. Help me to give them everything you've given me. But I do pray that, like, help me to see them through your eyes.
Mm.
And that has been a major gift, that it's not of me, because again,
Yeah.
what I want to do is be like, get out of my face, you're annoying the hell out of me. You know what I mean? Sorry.
No, I
But
hear you. And for you to think about how God is extending his grace to us, I think that's key in that situation, in any situation where we feel upset um, at the agenda. But many a times, I feel that we are blinded because the agenda feels like it's them, right? Because they're supporting an agenda and that's them. And
yeah,
suddenly we just get so upset.
yeah,
We get so upset about it.
yes,
So for me, as I'm hearing the vision of bridging the gap and whatnot, I'm encouraged. At the same time, maybe, I mean, there's about 3 to 5 people tuning in and tuning out. Maybe some of you watching right now, and we're live streaming. So in real time, if you can comment on whatever platform, we'll try to field maybe, would you be interested in being a part of this kind of movement
yeah,
in bridging the gap?
yes,
Would you be interested? Would you be interested in hearing conversations with people who are, of different ethnicity, different backgrounds, different education levels, different religions, and trying to bridge the gap? Because in that conversation, in that time of dialogue, there could be something that can spark that, because we want to share the love of Christ in the most winsome way possible, right? In the most winsome way, and that's what Jesus did
Mm.
during his ministry on earth. He went and he was able to talk to people and listen to their stories, and he was able to fulfill
Mm.
the need. If it was hunger, if it was a sickness, somebody bound to demons,
Mm.
Jesus was able to minister in that kind of way. And it opens up opportunities. And I
Yes.
like using this phrase. I like using the phrase of it adds value to them. No
Yes.
matter who they are, no matter what they've done, I would love to add value to your life, even if it's a word that's spoken, or just a smile, or it's just an opportunity for you to be known. You are seen, and I hear you. Your story matters, and your narrative is not done yet, right? There
Yes.
is still hope for you. All of these things. It
Mm.
can it can help people. It can add value to their lives. I want nothing in return. I'm not asking for your money.
Mm.
But in that podcast, in that type of connection, we're able to connect. So if any of you, watching right now, listening right now, would you be, willing to be a part of that kind of
Yeah.
movement where we connect people? And then hopefully by the grace of God, that they can be connected to the source of life, who
Mm.
is Jesus, who is
Mm.
Jesus. And so I'm excited about that. But if you want to maybe put in the chat, you can do that. If not, that's fine. But Kurt, tell us some more vision. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and this is also another part of the reason. Actually, I just want to hit on this is, and you're so right about that indifference, because then if a person's indifferent and they completely cut off, then there is no hope. So, where if I'm truly wanting this person to experience the same level of joy, peace, freedom that I've found, it can't be done if their walls go up. And walls go up instantaneously when you tell a person that they're wrong, or that they're all like, actually, no, well, there are certain things that we have to call wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Definitely. But if if I want that person, this is actually very what's the word again? Not confrontational, or
Con-
confrontation.
controversial.
Controversial. Thank you.
Yep.
This
I'm
is
here for you,
actually
brother. I'm here
very
for you.
controversial, what I'm about to talk about, and will probably ruffle some feathers. But I'm going to do it anyway, because I want to kind of drive home this point of why. So, because I don't want a person to continue with said negative behavior. So let's hit on one thing that I was very passionate about when I first came into Christianity. I wanted to save the world, and uh, you know, I started getting into this ministry thing and speaking places, and there was still there was a part of me that had extreme hate inside for a certain people group, and that is, let's just say, predators. uh, I hated predators. And the funny thing is, when I look back on my past and who I was a predator too, in a certain light, right? I used and sold drugs. I used and abused people. I sold people drugs. That's, taking advantage of somebody's weak, like that. I was a predator also. So that was kind of how I was able to bridge the gap with this people group. So, uh, and I'm not fully where I want to be yet with it, but I think God has healed me. or helped me to see certain things. Because ultimately, if you want most predatory, most predatory behavior usually comes from somebody who has been taken advantage of themselves at one
Right.
point, and it
Yes.
is coming from trauma.
Right.
And so if I want that behavior to stop, I can't do it by throwing stones. I mean, I've tried. That you're there's always going to be a way for them to sneak off. Like I can hold a gun to their head, but only so long of the day. If I'm just being honest, they're going to sneak off and have some
Right.
time alone and fall into that behavior again.
Right.
So there was this woman at one of these churches that I was speaking at early on, and I want to say I was probably a year fresh from the street. And there is a certain predatory group that in the street, in facilities, in jails, in that life that is like even looked at lower than low. Like
Oh,
they are looked
wow.
at like scum of the earth.
Yep.
Um, and the behavior, I don't know if I should say that. I the behavior is, if I'm just being honest, the behavior is I the behavior is disgusting. So was my behavior when I was doing certain things too. But this behavior I viewed. So I'll just tell the story and you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm at this church speaking, talking about what God has done in my life, how He has transformed me, how He has taken me from institutions and jails and the street and brought me to college and freedom and joy and
Yes. Yes.
you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Mm.
And this woman after the speech, like, you know, most of the time people like to come up and share their experience
Right.
with me. And her experience was that her husband was currently incarcerated for, she said, "Oh, my husband is locked up currently, and I just hope to God that he can have the same experience you had and come out a changed person." I was like,
Mm.
"Absolutely, like, of course he can. Why couldn't he?" And then she told me what he was locked up for, and I the words that came out of my mouth, I am such a piece of special junk. So I said something like along the lines like, "Well, I hope he gets what he deserves in there." Like, that's what I said to this hurting woman, not to her husband, not to the person who committed the offense, to a woman who is she didn't do anything.
She was searching for hope,
She
right?
was searching for hope.
She was searching for hope, and she saw a glimpse of hope
Mm,
through the story of your own testimony.
mm.
And she came up to you and she's like, I hope one day that he can have a testimony like yours, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And so where I sit today, do I believe that he can? Yeah, I do. I think it'll be hard. I think God has to be heavily involved. I think that there
100%.
has to be a lot of work also on that individual's part, just like there was a lot of work on my part, right?
Yes.
Uh, Inventory of my heart, uh, counseling, psychotherapy,
Yeah,
uh, sponsors, talking to people. There was just so many things that I had to do, steps that I had to take, steps that I still have to take to this day, to this day. And if I don't, I will. I know myself. I know where
100%.
I'll
So,
fall.
Kurt, let me chime in just a little
Yeah,
bit because you haven't spoken it outright, but I'm getting, I mean, you and I, we get
yeah,
along. So I understand where you're coming from.
preach that.
For me, when I hear those things of, in in the prison world, or in a group home world, or in an institution world, these things are unacceptable. Like, even in those areas there are standards,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're speaking of is that this doesn't even come, it comes under,
Under.
and it is looked down upon,
Mm-hmm.
even from a group of criminals, as it were,
Yeah.
right? And so I've been in direct atmosphere of these things. Of course, being in ministry,
Yeah.
right? Being in ministry,
Yeah.
where I have to minister to those who are affected and those who may have actually caused some of these
Yes.
things,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy.
Mm-mm.
It's not easy.
Nope.
And because you were a year fresh off the streets, the words that came out of your mouth, I mean, looking back, you'd be like, you know what? I think I could have phrased it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I was raw with my emotions. I mean, what else? What else? How else could you express yourself at that time? So there is grace for that, and I'm
Yeah.
sure
Well,
the
thank
person, you're able to, if you meet that person ever again, you'd be able to say, I was fresh,
you. Mm.
and knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
I believe that Christ died for all and he can redeem. And so there's hope, of course. But
Yes.
for me, being very close to these situations,
Mm-hmm.
my heart was always so tender. And
Mm.
this is only by the grace of God,
Yeah.
so tender towards not only the one who had committed these things, but for the people around them. Let's say
Mm.
that person's wife, or that person's child, or
Mm.
that person's mother. Because imagine your loved one
Mm.
being in those institutions and whatnot, and it's somewhat of a it's a disorder.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's
It's a
absolutely a disorder.
disorder,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the person who I was ministering to, and this gets me even to this day,
Mm.
they said to me, Pastor, it started with something small.
Mm. Yes. The foot in
And
the
then
door phenomena.
exactly. And then I needed a higher dosage.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then it went deeper and deeper until I found out I could not stop.
Yep.
And that's when I got caught.
Yep.
But isn't that the story of so many people?
Yes.
Isn't
Yes.
that the story of us? Where, it's like it's a different substance, or a different kind, or a different type,
Mm.
according to where you live, your zip code, your friends,
Yeah.
what they're exposed to. But isn't that the same with us? And so when I heard that, I'm like, man, this is at the root of it, it's sin.
Yeah.
It's birthed within us, right? And we're born with it, and it just
Yes.
grows and grows and grows, and until we just don't have control over it, and then we're busted. But
Yes.
many of us struggle with these sins that will not get busted by the law of the court of the land, but
Mhm.
it will get busted in the final judgment day. And that's why we have this message.
Mm-hmm.
We have this message of hope that, listen, you don't have to continue on that road of destruction. And many people, you don't need to tell them it's a disorder. They
Yes.
already know it.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's
they
my
tell
reason.
me, I can stop this any day, Pastor. And you know what? If you tell me to quit tomorrow, I'll do it. But I
Mhm.
just got to finish my last
Yeah.
batch, right?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So my heart of, being tender
Mhm.
towards these people, people in recovery, I need to be sobered up every day, by the way.
Mm.
It's not just for a person who has a background in whatever. I need to be sobered up to the hope
Mm.
that has been put into me every single day. Paul would say, I die every day. That
Every
means he
day.
lives every day with the
Yes.
power of the resurrection.
Yes.
That's the only way to live.
Mm.
And so it's not just for anybody who's in. I think we all are in recovery every day. Recovery of the new one man, the new identity, right? And when we get into that, rhythm, it's a holy rhythm, a holy discipline. Man, we live in freedom. Walk in
Yes.
freedom. Right?
Have you always had that ability to have that grace? Like, was there what for you was the hardest to see people through the lens of God, I guess? What for you would it be?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned when you talked about people who were predators that
Mm,
you found very difficult when
mhm.
you were first, born again,
Yeah.
regenerate, right? For me, it was the people who would look down on people. Let's say
Ooh,
people who are intellectual, people who
yeah.
had money, people who had
Yes.
position. Why? That was the life that I lived before. That was the pride of sin that I suffered, and I needed to get out of that, repent of that, because I
Mm,
lived under a facade that if I'm intellectual, if I'm brainy, if
mhm.
I have enough money, if I have enough power, then I can look down on people, I can
Mm,
oppress them. I was that person. I was that person, and those are the people that I found very difficult to embrace at the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
Because I know what they're thinking.
Yep,
That's why I don't like it.
yep, yep, yep.
It was
Absolutely.
mind blowing. So
Yeah,
when you talk about, yeah, I didn't like these kind of people, I'm like, yep, I know it because
yeah.
it's probably the life that you had lived, and it was the
Well,
same for me.
check this out. So for me, it was some of social so I've been taught like this is the lowest of the low. And I think part of me also thought like that is the lowest of the low. But you know where I actually started to find some grace, interesting enough. Actually, you know what? Check this out. Was when so we were just different types of predators.
Right.
They were preying on youth and
Yep.
people who can't
Yep.
stand up for themselves. And I was preying on the vulnerable too, just in a different way, like uh, people who are struggling with addictions and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, that's actually where was able to see. I was able to see. Oh man, like God gave me. So when you said the disorder, that was the other thing. Like I have this disorder that is a disorder as well. It is in the DSM-4 or 5 or whatever. It is in there.
Oh
Um,
wow, it is, huh?
it is in
Okay.
there. And
Okay.
so it is a disorder. It is a sickness, if I want,
Mm,
sickness. And if I got healed and well didn't deserve, if I got the grace of God poured out on me,
yeah.
why why would I expect any less for them? And
Right.
how else do I expect them to change and not hurt anyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So there was something like I was
Yes,
able
that connection.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
and
that's the grace itself, I believe, for you be able to see, because that's what happened to me.
ooh,
I began to see through my mentor, through those who love me,
mhm,
that God's unconditional love was flowing to me
mm,
when I had looked down on them.
yeah,
Just to be
ooh,
honest with you.
yes, 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 I hear you, I
Just to
hear
be
you,
honest with you.
and that's where you see it, right?
And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah,
I don't deserve to be loved like this. I don't deserve this
mm,
kind of forgiveness. And
yes,
yet God's giving it to me through these
yes,
people that I'm looking down upon. What in the world is going on?
mm,
I'm wrong.
yes,
I'm deceitful. I,
mm,
I'm destined for doom. I'm a
yes,
sinner, right?
yes,
What a wretched sinner I
oof,
was. And when that came to light, and I believe that's prevenient grace,
yeah,
where God's grace was really, wooing me and reaching my heart and tenderizing my heart
mm,
to the point where I became very humbled.
mm.
That God's love humbled me.
Did
And I had to
anyone call
repent.
you
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did anyone call you out on the behavior by any chance?
Yes. My mentor.
And so how when you say when they got caught, we often look at that like the end of things, and yes, you know what? Maybe it is, and so a new beginning could happen, right?
Right.
So
Right.
the that getting caught is always a blessing.
It is.
It's like
Yeah.
you don't see it at the time, you're like, "Oh, man, what are you talking about? It hurts so much." But it's such a
So you
blessing.
use the word you got caught,
Mm.
but I use the word I got found.
Yes,
I got found
I
out.
like it. Yes. Yes,
the,
yes.
the real me, that
Mm,
prideful person,
yes.
comparing myself like, okay, which university did you go to? Because I went to
Mm,
a really good one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that means you're lower,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like it's wicked, I'm telling you.
Mm,
It just came
I
out of
see that. Yeah.
low self-esteem. It came out of
Mm,
brokenness. It came
right.
out of hurt. It came
Yeah.
out of just being a small man. I mean, I preached on this past. I was a small man
Mm,
until God found me, and
yeah.
He's maturing me into the man of God that He's called me to
Yes.
be. But
Yes.
when I got called out, it hurt.
Yeah.
And I wanted to deny it. I
Yep.
wanted to run away. I
Yep.
wanted to fight it. I wanted to do everything in the book. And come
Mm,
find out, that there's no reason for me to do that. All I need
mm,
to do is repent and say,
yes.
that was the boulder that was actually crushing me. That was the boulder that was crushing me all this
Mm,
time. God has come.
yes.
Jesus has come.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit has come to help me unload this boulder.
Mm,
And that's called freedom, isn't it?
yeah.
And all I needed to do was, I confess.
Yeah.
I confess that. I repent of that. I'm so sorry. I'm messed up.
Mm.
Thank
You
you
know,
for finding me out, right?
and that's the start. That's like the starting point. And so I told you this actually before we got on here, and I'm gonna do it now. And the reason I'm gonna do this right now is because I think that when I do this, it's gonna have even more people holding me accountable. Um,
Mm,
and I can get better. But 2 days ago, and I'm over here thinking like I'm doing good and I'm saving people and doing a lot for people. And I got called out on something that really broke my
mm,
heart, big time. Um, and the reason I'm doing this right now is, and I think maybe our next time we gather, we can talk about character forming and what we do to.
sure.
I think that'd be an awesome, awesome conversation with you because you're so open and honest, which I love. Um, so yeah, I've been doing. Yeah, we could talk about what Kurt is doing, but really what God is just doing through me. But my my wife, um, I won't. You know what? I won't. I'll just say I've not been being the best husband, the best father. Um, yeah, any of it. Um, I thought I was. I thought I was, but part of me knew I wasn't like giving enough time to them.
Mm,
See, I was trying to what, and I'm gonna make excuses now. What I was trying to do was try to build up, because I think if I work hard enough, then maybe I'll be able to take some vacation time, and then or I'll be able to build something to where like I will eventually get to spend time with them. And they're probably those ideas are probably true, but nonetheless, I was still not. I s- and nothing has changed. Well, I would like to say in the last 2 days some things have changed. I'm trying to hear what my wife said to me. It hurt. When I tell you it hurt, man, it was like a knife to my heart because, like,
mm,
um, yeah, because like, who are you if your own house isn't right? Like, who are you if like you could be out saving the world, but your own house is not right? Like, where
mm,
are you then? What if your kids grow up without a dad? Like I
mm,
like to think like, oh, I'm this amazing father who, I care for my children and I do, this, that, and the third. Um, but the reality of the situation is, looking back now, hindsight, um, my job takes me away from my children a lot. So, like, how I grew up where my dad was never really home and then passed away. So, like, I had my father first. My dad did the best. My dad was awesome. I don't want to belittle or bash or tarnish his name. Um, but like we talk about these people, like, oh, they grow up without their fathers or mothers or whatever. But like, I'm not doing any better.
Mm.
I'm not doing any better just because I'm not out um, using drugs and partying or uh, X, Y, and Z. Just because I think like my mission is holy, um, it doesn't make it any better that I was
Mm.
not present. Even when I would be home, I'd be on my phone, texting, answering emails, making sure everyone else is all right. Meanwhile, my kids are like, "Daddy, Daddy." I'll be like, "Hold on."
Mm.
It just really messes me up to think about that I was doing that I do that. Um,
Mm.
and so
Mm.
the reason I'm saying this is not to I need accountability. Um,
Mm.
I'm going to try to be better. Um,
Mm.
I'm going to Now I'm going to talk to people who I view as good husbands or I see
Yeah.
them as good fathers. I'm going to start talking to them and asking
Mm.
them questions. But that initial call out where I want to be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm providing, or
Yeah.
I'm providing. Uh, I, I drop off my kids to school, or
Right. Yeah. Sure.
like, I'm not present. I'm not
Mm.
present. And that's what
Mm.
they deserve. They deserve a father and my wife, who is
Mm.
honestly, again, I can't say enough about her. She is the most amazing woman. And I know most people think that, oh, I hope they think that about their wives. I
Mm.
really do have the most amazing wife. And I didn't realize how much uh, I was hurting her.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Or
I
maybe
hear you.
part of me did. You know what? If I'm being honest now, I don't know. I have a lot of work to do and thinking about. Maybe I did. Maybe part of me did know
Mm-hmm.
and would make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me think through that. But like right instantaneously when she said it, um, certain things, I was just hurt. I was torn apart and I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to um yeah, I just wanted to curl in a bowl and die, man.
Yeah. No, I've been there.
Mm.
I told you when my mentor called me out
Yeah.
that you're just a prideful person.
Yeah, it hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah.
In my experience, though, at that time, I would probably use the same expression like a knife that came
Mm,
to my heart.
yeah.
I wanted to, roll up in the fetus position and cry and hide.
Mm,
I think I experienced all of that.
yeah.
But looking back on it now,
Mm,
and perhaps this is helpful to you or
yeah.
anybody listening today, because I think this is huge that you're sharing this with me and with us
Mm,
live. But what I've come to realize was a knife to the heart by a surgeon is a scalpel that takes out the cancer.
Oh, man, you are so wise, bro.
No,
Oh,
I'm not. I'm
I
just
know,
kind of
sorry.
realizing. I'm
Yeah.
realizing back from where I am
Mm,
now that a scalpel held in the surgeon's hand takes
yes,
out the cancer.
yes,
So it ought to hurt.
yes,
It ought to hurt because
yes.
it's truth.
Mm,
But truth always restores and builds up,
yes, yes.
right? But a knife held in a criminal's hand is for harm and to hurt and to
Yeah,
kill.
yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously, the words that I heard from my mentor and the words that you're hearing from your wife are not words to harm or to
Yes,
kill or to
yes,
destroy. None of that.
yes, yes.
It's, I feel it as a knife, a dagger in my heart, but in the hand of the surgeon,
Mm,
he's trying to say, son, there's a little bit of cancer
Right.
here, and
Yeah.
if this gets bigger, it's
Ooh.
going to destroy everything. And so
Mm.
we just need to hold on, just let me take this out for you. I know it's going to hurt,
Mhm.
but we need this time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so I don't know. It helped me.
I,
Hopefully, it helps. I
beautiful.
don't know what you think. I
Yes.
don't know what you
No, no,
think.
I appreciate that a lot because I really yes. And you're oh my gosh, I'm just having like these like aha moments. That just reigns so true in my life. Each person that says something to me. Actually, do you know what? I would even claim, check this out. Uh, there have been people who would say things to hurt me that actually had some truth in it too, actually.
Yes. Yes,
You know
indeed.
what I mean?
Yep.
And like, so obviously it wasn't used rightly and there's and probably embellished and but it that nonetheless there was some truth to it and it enabled me to heal because even like when we say check this out like I don't want to start a whole other thing right now but um like when I hear like when we talk about like let's say the word criminals right something shaped that's a human right that was shaped and by probably some pain some hunger some
Yes.
you know what I mean
Yes.
and so even they have I do believe we are all created in that image of love, man. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the world just piles on defense mechanism after crap, after barrier, after boundary, after right? And then somewhere, sometimes in our 20s or 30s, hopefully, we start realizing like all these barriers that were that was protecting me because they were like these boundaries, like or these things that I place on my children or even want to teach my children. I want them to be open. I want them to be caring,
Right.
but I want them to be wise too. How do I teach
Exactly.
them to be wise without putting up boundaries? And I don't know, man. I'm wrestling with this whole I know I'm going down another rabbit hole right now, but like this whole concept of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, even the worst of the worst. Like
Mm-hmm.
that us as society would come together and be like, that's the worst. Even them.
Mm-hmm.
They were born as pure and perfect love,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, maybe had born with like this sin nature
Sure,
eventually,
sure, yeah.
but
But the
they're
image of God, yeah, the image
the
of
image of
God
God.
that needs to be restored.
Yes.
And when you talk about, yeah, there were some people who came at you with harmful intent.
Yeah.
And you and I think we're pretty quick to discern, yeah, this person is out to get me, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, you've got street smarts, I've got my own smarts. Like
Yes.
we have intuitions.
Intuition. Yeah.
And yeah, and God gives us that. But
Mm.
even in those times, what my mentor has always taught me
Mhm.
is listen in.
Listen.
Listen in to
Mm.
what they have to say.
Yes.
And if there's a hint of what they're saying is true,
Mm.
take that and run with it as motivation
Beautiful.
because they came to harm you.
Yeah.
But what you can do is to get better with what
Yes.
they've come at you with. And
Yes.
I'm not there yet. I
Mm.
want to be.
Yeah.
I'm being raw and honest with you. I'm not there yet, but I want to get to that point of maturity. But the
Mm.
beginning is such that when people love you enough to tell you the truth, are you willing
Yes.
to listen?
Yes.
That's the beginning.
Yes.
That's the base.
Yep.
When we mature and grow in the Lord and go deeper in our relationship with Jesus,
Mm.
then even those who come to harm us, we're like,
Mhm.
there must be a hint of truth in this,
Yeah. Yes.
and I'm
Yep.
going to grow from this.
Yes.
And I'm going to forgive them for their harmful intent, even if they
Mm.
don't ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I want the best for them. But
Yes.
I need to take away something, and I'm going to get better from this. That's where I want to be. And like
Mm.
you said, maybe that's another theme for another day
Yeah.
that we can talk about, character, our character becoming more like Jesus and growing in maturity and all of that.
Yeah.
But let's circle back and summarize this vision for coming back, right?
Yeah.
Coming to the vision of this bridging the gap ministry, media, Let's dream big. What can be what's the unreachable goal? I guess. I mean, let's just dream together. What could it be?
So the dream, the end dream, I would love to be, and I don't know if I'm prepared yet for that, and I'm sure God will prepare me. Um, and the reason I'm about to say what I'm about to say is not because I want to be famous. Actually, what I've realized now is I don't want to be famous. Because I'll put it like this, actually, because I'm afraid of, like, I have been open and honest about my past and things like that. But do you know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of the person that I hurt in the past that I forgot and have not made amends with, or afraid of, like, this. That's just me being real. Like, I'm like
No,
afraid
no,
of,
I hear you. I hear you, 100%.
you
I
know.
hear you because sometimes I think like that too.
Mm,
Because I've hurt many people in my own life,
yeah.
and I've tried to make amends. I've tried
Mm,
to reach out. Some of them I've sent emails to. There's
yeah.
no response. I've tried the best I could do, the
Yeah.
best I could do.
Yeah.
And it's not about becoming famous and popular.
No,
It,
no, no.
it's really we're trying to
That's
reach
it.
people, right?
Yes.
Reach people. That's what we're trying to do. But sometimes, maybe one of the things that you just about was, what about that person that, and then I would actually twist it.
It would be a gift because then I get a chance to make amends, right? Yes. I
Just twist
just
it.
thought you and me,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, there you go. Because
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So if that's God's plan,
Mm.
if that's in God's plan, He'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
don't need to fear.
You're
Because
right.
what do I have to be fearful about? Because
Mm.
yeah, I know what I did wrong. And
Mm.
I know where I've come from. I know I was a wretch, but
Yeah.
now I know that I'm a forgiven saint.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Or
forgiven, and I can ask for forgiveness.
what about the person that I hurt in ministry that I don't know about? Or, like, I'll be like,
Come on, Kurt. We don't do that.
yeah, no, I definitely do, man.
Come on,
I
Kurt.
have,
No,
you know, I
100%.
have, like that
100%.
woman, let's say that woman perchance, right?
Sure.
That
Yeah.
I was, and I know I have done things and I've learned that they've been learning experiences anyway. So but the vision would be, I kind of have this idea where, like, we're doing this podcast and it's like up there with the Joe Rogans, and because I want actually to have the widest audience so that we
Hmm.
are bridging the gap for real. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we can start in our own neighborhoods, we
Sure.
start in our own towns, but, like, I, I'm just recently, and this is something else, another side of me that I've been wrestling with, that we've been talking about in terms of finances and stuff, where I'm like, I want to help people. I want to help people. Uh, I think that we could help the most amount of people if we have the biggest reach. Just being honest.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing if we can reach the most amount of people, we can
Mm-hmm.
impact change at the greatest levels, where I'm able to, like, in terms of my ministry now, like, where I'm able to, with just my time, like, help X amount of people, let's say 100, a couple 100,000, whatever. If I was to build up and do what I'm kind of envisioning, this other thing, and become more financially stable, and live into what you were saying, live on 10% of my income and 90% of it be part of kingdom work. I want that. Not, if I had, think about if we were millionaires, bro, how many
Mm-hmm.
people we could actually help. We could
Yes.
enact change. We could start funding nonprofits across the country, across the world, and impact the world, man. Like, where we,
Amen.
I just feel like I've been dreaming so small, and God has been like nudging me and nudging me and nudging
Mm.
me, like, and I've been
Mm.
like, no, I'm not that guy. I can't. There's no way. Like, who
Mm.
am I? There's no way. Like, I'm a piece of crap junk. Like, no. And like, I truly think that there's a reason why God has placed certain things on my heart, on our hearts, right? And where we're
Mm.
communicating.
Mhm.
Why I dumped my life savings into getting, camera and
Nice.
lighting. And
Yeah.
I really truly believe that there's going to be some reason for this podcast, and why you and I met. You've
Mhm.
touched me on certain areas that I don't even think you realize yet. I don't even know if you
Mm.
know that you've had such an impact on something I've been wrestling with. I actually just touched on it on finances, like where um, I I come from I was born in a certain neighborhood around a lot of wealth, let's say.
Mhm.
Then moved, then was kind of like, I was moved out of it, like from own life circumstances, let's say.
Mhm.
Um, and I had this for the last 10, 12 years, this like aversion to rich people, like this. Uh, I don't know how to explain. Like there's there's actually, when I done some work, I've done a ton of work on this actually in the last year and a half, because I felt this calling. And I was like, no, because that goes against everything I believe. I'm supposed to be poor. I gotta be poor. I just had this narrative or this thing. And so part of it comes from, obviously, I realized jealousy and
Mm.
past traumas from
Mm.
being in a certain neighborhood, and then um, certain things happening in my family to where, like, yeah, I didn't get a car given to me. I didn't get uh,
Yep.
a BMW, even like, yeah, a car, but BMW or any,
Yep.
like, I didn't get, so th- there was probably jealousy brewing from way back then, past
Mhm.
traumas and stuff,
Mhm.
and um and misconceptions, and just being doing blanket casting on people, like all rich people are evil. Like, they're not.
Mm.
I know so many good rich people, so
Yep.
many. Do you know the reason there is one couple, there's two couples, but one couple right now, oh, there's three couples. Whatever. I'm just gonna speak about this one couple because, but there's a couple of couples who have kept the anchor doors open,
Wow. So good.
and they
God
don't
bless
want
them.
any
God bless them.
recognition.
Mm.
No recognition. Doesn't
Mm.
even want their names involved.
Wow. So good.
I'm like, that's, and so like I start seeing one of these couples and gentlemen who's like, now he has a foundation that he, actually, I probably shouldn't say, well, that's my dream. I'd love to be able to fund nonprofits and people who want to change, want to spread love, who
Yeah.
want to care for people in tangible ways, like
That's
Christ
good.
did for me, like people did for me, like Christians did for me. Like, non-Christians did as well, but like, um, I'm saying the message of Christ also. Like, I just feel like there are great, bigger, and larger things ahead for us that I was kind of shying away from due to low self-image, certain things, this image of, well, what are people going to think of if I am rich? Like, what, like, I've spent so much time, like, kind of like saying I'm one with the people, like certain my group of people, and um so I don't know, I had a lot of that doubt, but you helped me so much with that one phrase saying, live on 10% of my income and 90% of that for kingdom work. And I truly, truly, I am running with that. I am running
Amen.
with that. I know it's going to happen.
I love it. I
So,
love it. I appreciate you sharing that, and I believe that too. I'm
Mm,
working towards that, and I'm praying for it, because this is the idea. We
mm.
are blessed not to keep it for ourselves. We
Do
are
it.
blessed to bless others,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
whole reason.
That's it. That
That's it.
is
And
it.
so the more we're blessed, we're not going to become prideful. We're not going to, we're not going to get our heads all big. No, because the Lord will help us by
Yes.
his grace
Yes.
to let us know, I've blessed you so that you can help others.
Yes.
I've been generous to you so that you can
Mm.
be generous to others. And
Amen.
it doesn't have to start when we get the $1 million or the $1 billion or the 10 billion.
Yeah.
It can start now.
Right
And
now.
what we're doing today, sharing about, what God has done in our lives,
Mm.
that's a little bit of
Yeah.
sharing that to those who may be in need. For
Yes.
you to share some of the vulnerable things,
Mm.
that's being generous,
Mm.
because some
I hear
people would
you.
love to
Yeah.
hide behind this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
But we bring it to light,
Mm.
and we pray that it would edify one person, but
Yes.
that one person can be, a catalyst towards getting to other people to hear the news of Jesus and the hope. So we are blessed to bless, right?
Yes.
We're
We're
loved
blessed to
to
be a
love
blessing.
others, right?
There's the
So
song.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
the
come on.
song "Blessed to Be a Blessing." I don't. It's some. Who is it? Um, Israel Houghton. Is that his name? Maybe he.
Yeah, Israel, yeah, I've
Israel.
heard of him. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Man, that when that guy sings, oh, there's something in my soul that stirs.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he goes, "Blessed to be a." I'm a horrible singer. Blessed to be a blessing, and it's so true, man.
Mm.
You
It
are so
is.
right, man.
It is. So we don't work under a poverty kind of spirit mindset,
Yes.
or a stingy mindset. It's
Ooh.
like we work out of plenty. We work
Okay.
out of plenty. It's like God's kingdom's resources are infinite. So
Yeah.
we work out of God's kingdom resources. So we
Yes.
don't have to be stingy.
Mm.
Don't have to be like, well, I don't know if I'll have enough left for me. No, no,
Mm.
there's plenty. Continue
There
to
is
give and give and give, but at the same time, we always have to take a good inventory of where
always.
my heart is, my intentions. Am I
Mhm.
just doing this because, I want to get my name out, and God forbid that happens,
Yes.
but we always have to check and
Yeah.
ask one another the question, are we doing this for publicity, or are we doing this
Yes.
for Christ? Right? Are we
Yes.
doing this for Him and the kingdom? So thinking about the end goal at the
Mm.
beginning is important for
Yeah.
any project, and
Agreed.
that's why I wanted you to share that. And for me, the end goal is, yeah, I want to reach as many people as I can,
Yes.
with whatever God has put in my hands.
Yes.
And right now, I believe, He's given me a vision
Yeah.
to share the message, but
Mhm.
in such a creative way
Mm.
that, people who will probably never step foot into a church building
Yes.
will
Yes.
be able to see something and say, I want what they have.
Yes.
They've got something. And
Mm.
when they ask us, we can say, yeah, it's Jesus.
Point to the
He,
one who did it.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And
For me.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that's the dream, and
Mm.
we pray that God will bless it, and that God would help us to have some more collaborators to help us on this
Yes.
journey.
Yes.
And I'm excited that you're, that God's really opening up doors in your mind and in your vision. So I'm excited about it, Kurt.
Can I touch one more thing real quick? I
Oh
know
yeah,
we've been
sure.
on for a while. Um, so what I realized is this also, and it's ringing so true in these days. And if I look back, it was true then throughout my whole walk is this. I can't do it alone, and I think that Jesus very intentionally, even thinking about in terms of discipleship, I think he very intentionally sent people out in pairs. There is a reason I think for that, and it's what is ringing true in my right now is like so. in this between you and then between me and let's say Jeremy, me and this and my boy Derek right now, that and my boy Andy, but my boy Derek, who we're dreaming up a vision also right now. Um, at the very beginning, we said to each other, like, so me and Derek said this, if you and I continue to dream together and envision, I don't think it has to be said, but I would love to say it with you, um, that like God's first, the mission is first. What I need you to hold me accountable. When you see me slipping away, when you see me starting to say, "Oh, like maybe we can step off like just a little," like I need you to call me out. And that's hard. That's very hard because like I know I'd have to do in return, and I don't like doing that. I know it's hard. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. But like I think it's necessary. I've realized I can't do it alone. I always need a partner in whatever I'm doing, and it's to keep me grounded, to keep me grounded in God, in Christ, in love, in what has initially sparked even this idea or this vision or this the reason for we're doing this into being.
Nice.
So yeah, I wanted to
Nice.
say that because
I
I
appreciate
feel that
that.
with you, man. I really do. And
Mm.
I feel it with my boy Derek, and I felt it, and
Mm.
I feel it with Jeremy. But like in whatever venture God has placed me in the beginning, I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. But I always feel like I need a partner, and that's the reason why I need it. One of the
Mm.
reasons. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm weak, they're strong. I've noticed
Sure.
that as well.
And vice versa. Yeah, vice
Yeah,
versa.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
That's
yeah,
good.
just
I
needed.
like that approach. I like
Yes,
that approach.
thank you.
Well, thank you, Kurt, for sharing your
Mm,
vision today, and sharing some of your stories.
mm.
It's always exciting to hear
Thank you.
what God is dreaming up, cooking up in His people, in His church, and I look forward to continuing this journey.
Yeah.
And I want to welcome any of those who are watching this today,
Mm,
that you would pray. And if you want to support us in any kind of way, feel free to leave it in the chat. We'll try to read that and get back to you. And I'm excited for what
me
God
too.
has, because this message is so precious that
Mm,
it needs to be shared with as many people as possible.
yes.
And we're dreaming big because
Yeah,
we serve a big God,
yeah.
and there is nothing impossible for Him.
Mm,
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And I want to thank Pastor Kurt for joining us as well. And
thank you so
hopefully,
much.
we'll connect again for
Yeah.
another episode. Maybe next time we can talk about character building,
Yes.
how God builds character in us as
Mm,
leaders, as pastors, as people, as husbands, as fathers, brothers, all of those things. We can talk about that on the next episode.
I
Well,
love that.
thank you everybody for joining us. And thank you, Pastor Kurt. All
Thank
right. Blessings to all of you. Take good care.